You're listening to Mudville Sounds.
Hello?
I was the stone that the builders refused until you picked me up and built a new temple with me. It started humble, unfurnished, it turned into a home to which we'd both run to when given a choice. It takes to lose what you love to appreciate what you've got, and I'll be damned if I go down that road again. I have failed you for the last time. As far as myself goes, I will do the best I can for us. And when you least expect it, I will put a ring around that finger you reserve for love. They say that fools will trust only their luck. Smart men in cause and effect, and I'm torn on which I should be. This even sequence that brought us together seems oh so circumstantial, too much so to be fake. And yet it all simply fell where it's supposed to, I guess. 'Cause here we are exchanging heat another day. I have failed you for the last time. As far as myself goes, I will do the best I can for us. And then when you least expect it, I will put a ring around that finger you reserve for love. Might be rest on the streets and we might breathe beneath the sheet.
I'm sitting with Alejo from Brightside Music.
Yeah.
So when I first met you, you were going by something slightly different, though.
Yeah, it was the bright side of suicide.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what made you change that name?
So I started playing show. I had always gone by by the bright side of suicide, and I really liked the the name and everything. I thought it was cool, but eventually, my son started getting into my music. And he would go to school and like show his friends and like show his teachers and like he would want to play my music at school and like so I started feeling a little weird about that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
it has bad
and he was
connotation,
yeah,
right?
he was like 7 at the time, so he was like in 2nd grade,
Right.
So
Having a second grader go to class talking about suicide.
exactly,
kind of,
what I mean, and like he couldn't articulate what I would say, whenever people confronted me about it, I'd be like, well, no, it's it's supposed to make you think, what I mean, like there's it's philosophical to an extent. It's like what is normal, you know what I mean, like what is the bright side of suicide, you know what I mean? Some people might argue that it's the end of suffering for some people, you know what I mean, but he's 7 years old, he can't articulate that. You know what I mean? And he's just excited about, his dad making music. So I decided to go by my Instagram handle, which was Brightside Music.
There you go.
And that's that.
Have a little bit more positive swing on your title. Yeah, definitely.
And so, and one of my best friends was like, dude, Brightside Music is kind of lame. You know what I mean? I was like, Hot Water Music did it, so whatever.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really enjoyed about seeing you live when I first saw you playing was that you were a solo act.
Yeah.
And you had all of these sounds going on.
Yeah.
You had, like, everything running through pedals
Yeah.
and boards and computers. And, you know, it's not that I hadn't seen that before,
Right.
but you don't see it very often, especially in this area for live performances.
Right. Right.
So, how did you get into, like, having all of this gear for your solo sound?
So it's not a lot of gear, honestly. It's just my computer. You know, I got it down to the point where I could just show up to a place and I would just need 2 lines, one for my computer and one for my vocals.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And so I'd have an external sound card, an interface
Okay.
that I would plug my guitar into, and then all of my effects were on the computer. You know what I mean? All the drums were on the computer, so I was basically running a live session off of Ableton
Okay.
on my computer with all the effects and everything going on live. And
So were these, like, pre-recorded tracks?
not
or...
pre-recorded, but pre-programmed. So what I would do is, I had, you know, my drum tracks, my bass tracks, you know, those are all virtual instruments, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then what I would do is I have the capability, and not just me, like anyone who uses a recording program can automate changes in tracks. So what I would do is I would load different distortions or effects for the guitar track,
Okay.
and I would be like, at measure 38, click this track on, click this effect on, and then at 34, 42, click it off. So I didn't even need a guitar pedal.
Right.
All
It
the
just did it
effects,
automatic.
It just did it, turned it on and off. I didn't have
Killer.
to, hit the stop box at all.
All right.
And it was, at first it was weird because, it was like pop punk and emo, but it was a solo guy. And usually when you hear a solo guy doing pop punk and emo, you're like, oh, he's gonna do acoustic guitar stuff, right? So
yeah.
so I felt a little bit like a poser for a minute, and people in the scene would tell me like, dude, you need a band.
Yeah.
And at the time I wasn't in the mental space to be in a band. I just had a lot going on, and I just didn't have the time. Anytime I had been in a band, I just didn't work well with others. So, I ended up, I got tired of playing all my stuff acoustically, and the thing about acoustic is that it almost always sets you up for opening.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so,
I know that one all too well.
So, I was like, I need to have like a full sound, so that I can go, third on the bill or whatever, like, because I had also played acoustic third on the bill, and it felt kind of weird. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just brought down all the energy that the first 2 bands had brought up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just, I just felt like I needed to do that. And I couldn't be in a band because I just couldn't handle it. And so at the time I was going to Sac State, and I had already messed around with digital production. I had already recorded and released stuff on Pure Volume. I'm aging myself, but Pure Volume and like SoundCloud and all that stuff, just stuff that I had recorded at home. But when I was going to Sac State, I took a MIDI class, and the professor there, Mike Crane, he was teaching us Ableton as the recording platform.
Okay.
And so he showed me, you can use Ableton to essentially run a live, like you don't need anything but your computer and a good sound card.
Huh.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, that's gonna be weird showing up to a dingy spot with a computer, and so I was like, well, but then I was like, whatever, like I need to do what I need to do, what I mean? At the end of the day, I can't just stay home and not go play if that's what I want to do.
Right.
So that's how I got started with the whole solo, quote unquote, band.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. I think it works great. Like, I love it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. It's just, it can be a lot. it can be a lot of pressure because, like, you know, I haven't put out anything in a while because I hadn't written anything in a while. And so it becomes like, oh, now it's not just, you know, it's not 3 guys responsible for the music or 3 people responsible for the music and the production and the marketing and all. It's one dude.
Well, at least you don't have to be on everybody else's time schedule, right?
No,
like...
but you do have to learn everything,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I spent so much time on, like, the YouTube Creators Academy and, the Google marketing classes and, you know what I mean? All this stuff that you, like,
lots
essentially...
of self-education.
Exactly, that you have, like, it sounds lame, you know what I mean? It's not punk rock, but... You have
it's
to.
It's punk rock because you did it by yourself.
Well, you have to. You know what I mean? Or you can, you know, if you have it, then you can pay somebody and have a, you know, 16-hour turnaround and have a decent, you know, super decent track.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be also marketed. That's going to be already on, you know, whatever.
Sure.
But I had to do it on my own, especially because, like, I didn't feel like I was reaching a lot of people, you know what I mean? So I felt like I needed to do more of, I had to put in more work to be able to be heard more.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of how it all got started.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. You're not originally from this area.
No, I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Yeah.
So when did you come over here? Like,
I came here in 2001. And it was either June or July of 2001. And then and at that time I was 13 or so, 13,
okay,
14.
So still in school.
Yeah. I actually had started 8th grade in Argentina and then came here. And because I came here in June, July, I had to restart 8th grade.
Oh, fun.
You know? And so during the summer I went to a summer school so that I could sort of acclimate, you know, to the school system. And then I started school, Roosevelt Junior High in Modesto, California.
Were you into music at that point?
Yeah, I had always been into music. Actually. Always. You know, my biological dad used to tell me that, you know, we would ride the subway in Argentina. This one story that he always told is that it was like, you know, a Sunday early morning, and like these 2 like evidently rocker looking dudes who had been clubbing all night, you know, got on the subway, and they sat down, and I was singing like a rock hit of the time in Argentina, but it wasn't like something a 3-year-old would sing, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And I was like singing it or whatever, and like these guys were like all hungover or whatever, and they like kind of like nudge each other, like, little dude, look at, you know. So I had always been into music. I don't remember a time where I wasn't singing.
Okay, all right.
You know.
So when you came over here and started school here, did you get into band class?
No.
Anything?
I thought I was too cool for band class. Not that, and now as an adult, I know that it was really my fear of learning how to read music.
Oh.
I had realized quickly that there's music by ear and then there's music on paper.
Yes.
You know, and it was scary, you know, because as a learner, I had always been like, oh, this is easy, and as soon as it gets hard, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, yeah.
And so, you know, as an adult now, I realize, like, me saying, like, oh, the band geeks or the band nerds, whatever, that was just me being scared of having to learn music. Yeah. You know?
Well, that kind of makes me wonder, is English your first language?
No.
Like, so you were already having to pretty much
learn English,
and music is a whole other language.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Like that, that
Not
can
only
be really
that,
intimidating.
Music is taught differently in Spanish than it is in English.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Or at least in Argentina, they use what's called fixed do, which means, so like, do is always C.
Right, yeah, okay.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Yeah.
Right? So then if you're in the scale of D major, you're not in the scale of D major. They don't say de mayor or whatever. They say do. I mean, re.
Okay, I get ya.
You know, so...
They go by do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do
Right.
instead of the actual...
But it's fixed. So here in America, what we do is we have movable do. So the do in the C major scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But then it's also in the F major scale, it's also do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Huh.
So we can sing solfege. That's what the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, it's referred to solfege.
Okay.
You can sing the solfege on any scale, and it'll still you'll still say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Whereas over there, all the scales are based off of not letters, but the solfege name.
Right, okay, alright. That's really interesting.
So
Wow.
my parents would be like, oh, here's, do sostenido, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is C, D, E, F, G. Like, that's not how they're teaching me at school.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh.
So it was learning English and, and then also, like, if I did have an interest in music, like, I'd have to figure out, like, I'd have to pick a system, essentially, and the American system was a lot easier for me to learn, so.
I got ya. That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, so then, from what I understand, it's movable do and fixed do. That's the difference.
Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So about what age would you say that you started really getting into music and taking it seriously, like learning how to play?
It was probably that year or the year after that I moved here. When we moved to America, we moved to Modesto, and we were living with my aunt, who was already living here. She was a citizen and everything, like, she had been here for a year, like 20 or 30 years already, so.
Okay.
So we came here, and she quickly noticed that I had an interest in music. So she, against my mother's advice, bought me my first electric guitar.
Ooh.
And
your mom didn't want you to have an electric?
No, she did not, no.
Is it like the rock and roll connotation?
Right, like, even though she played classical guitar, you know what I mean?
Oh, there's a difference between nylon string and
Yeah,
electric.
for sure. And she would have loved it if I was playing, some classical stuff, but I was like, this is America. Like, we're in America now. Like, it's rock and roll. You know what I mean? Like, I can't show up to school playing bossa nova. Like, that's not gonna get me the attention of the girls that I want. You know what I mean? Because don't forget, I'm also 13. Like, I'm going through puberty. Like, I'm trying to fit in as hard as I can. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And so my aunt bought me my first electric guitar, and it was like a really.
What kind of guitar was it?
It was a Squier Bullet.
A Squier.
Yeah, it was
Bullet.
like the $150 combo that you could buy at Guitar Center. It was like a Squier Bullet, one knob, just a volume knob,
That's awesome.
with a tiny little like 10-inch practice amp.
I had a Court. That was mine.
Oh, nice.
It was the same setup, like
nice.
$200 setup with the guitar and the amp and everything, but mine was a Court.
Right.
And it had two knobs. We had the volume and the tune knob, and it had a whammy bar too.
Oh, that's sick.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's dope.
Oh gosh, do you remember what the first song you learned on it?
Yeah,
was?
so she with the guitar, she bought me a month of lessons.
Oh, cool.
At this place that's called Lang Lewis.
Oh, okay.
In Modesto.
Okay.
I think they're still around. They're like one of one of those places, music places that have been around forever.
Right.
So they got me, she got me some lessons there, and I told the dude, like, because I immediately was like, we're gonna learn to read music. Like, I just want to go gang gang.
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, well, no, yeah, you're gonna learn how to read music, but also, like, what do you want to learn how to play? Yeah. And at the time, this is probably super silly, but I was super into Aerosmith. Like,
heck yes,
sickly into Aerosmith. Like, I was
heck
like,
yes.
As soon as I turn 18, I'm gonna get the Aerosmith logo tattoo shoulder to shoulder on my back. You know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
You know? So I was like, I want to learn how to play Walk This Way.
Oh, there you go.
So he's like, oh, this, and he plays it, and he's like, that's super simple. I'll show you right now. So the very first lick that I learned how to play was the riff to Walk This Way.
That's awesome.
So, and he got me hooked because he taught me the thing that I wanted to learn how to play right away.
Yeah.
So after that, I was like, well, I'll see you next week. You know.
Heck yeah.
So that was the first thing I learned how to play.
That's awesome.
And then, hot cross buns and on top of Old Smoky. all the stuff that I'm now teaching.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome though. Heck yes.
Yeah, it was cool. And then, that Halloween I took my guitar out and I dressed like Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, there you go.
Not realizing the blasphemy of being slashed with a Squire bullet hanging from your neck.
Oh no, that's hilarious. I didn't even think about that.
They're like, who are you? I'm Slash. You can't tell? They're like, no, you're not wearing Slash's signature Les Paul.
So how do you think that your musical tastes and influence have changed since then?
Well, I was super into classic rock, but not. I was really into late 70s, early 80s classic rock. It was Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, a lot of classic rock from Argentina, some modern rock from Argentina. So it was always rock or pop rock. It was always rock influences.
Mm-hmm.
It all started with just Argentinian influences of current rock musicians of the time, and then when I got here, Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses. Then I switched to Nirvana and but I wasn't into grunge. I just liked Nirvana because I could not stand Pearl Jam. You know what I mean? I could not stand Stone Temple Pilots or
no Mudhoney.
No, Buck Cherry, none of that. You know what I mean? I could not with these skinny dudes pinching their nipples. You know what I mean?
Oh no. Oh no, that was more Iggy Pop, man.
Well, no, Iggy Pop did it, but he wasn't I don't know. The way all those dudes Scott Weiland and the dude from Buck Cherry, they're all
yeah.
Post Iggy Pop. I hadn't even realized that. They are doing a lot of the same Iggy Pop shit.
Yeah.
You know? But these guys, they're I don't know. I feel like Iggy Pop could have gotten laid without having to do all that, and I feel like these dudes were doing it to get laid. You know?
I see. I
just felt like it was not genuine, really.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And
that's hilarious.
But I really liked Kurt Cobain's, music and his lyrics, what I understood at the time. And so, I just got into Nirvana a lot. I remember telling my mom, I'm going to solve Kurt Cobain's murder. You didn't know this, but I just got on my 56K dial-up internet connection, and I got a flyer that I downloaded from justiceforkurt.com, and I'm going to solve this murder. I got, really obsessed with Kurt Cobain. I bought the journals, which in retrospect, I think, it's a little disrespectful, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I was a teenager at the time, so I wasn't thinking about that.
You weren't the only one.
No, I'm sure. I mean, it got published. Somebody was making money out of it, so it wasn't just me. But I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
What have you? So it was classic rock, Nirvana, and then pop punk, without even knowing.
That's definitely prevalent in your sound, that pop punk kind of
and
sound.
I didn't even know that that's what it was, because when you were in Argentina, they would call that hardcore.
Really?
Well, because it's really just like a cultural difference type thing. Like it's just a lost in translation thing. Somebody down there who was really in the punk scene, you know what I mean, would have told you the difference between hardcore and punk, right? But us 13-year-olds were just discovering this thing. Like we thought we were discovering fire. You know what I mean? So like the kids my age would be like, "Oh, you listen to hardcore? You listen to hardcore?" Come to think of it now, it's like pop punk and like skate punk, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like my first punk album was "Conspiracy of One" by The Offspring, which wasn't even Offspring's most punk quote unquote album. You know what I mean? Like they blew up with Smash and then Ignition and all that, but "Conspiracy of One" was the one I liked. And then I started listening to, like, not even Blink-182, like Sum 41 and then Newfound Glory, like a bunch of, like, of the things that I would pick up, off the alternative radios.
I got you, yeah.
And then as I started getting more comfortable with the language, it started, like, being like, oh, this is a genre, and it's punk, and it's, blah, 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 and, like, then I ended up hanging out with, like, the skate punk kids at school, and
they were able to expose you to a little
right,
more.
Yeah.
I
I remember studying a article in the Modesto Bee about street slang that they had. They did an article on street slang at the skate park. And I remember being, 13, 14 and being like, you gotta know these, bro. Like, and I was like, beefing it. Okay, got it. When you fall down. Or when you have problems with somebody, you got beef. Like, it was all these, like, slang terms, like, for parents, like, here's what your kids are saying type thing. But me, as an immigrant, I was like, I gotta know these.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Gosh. Yeah, there's some things like that, like, I don't even think about, like, because, like, I see articles like that.
Yeah.
And it is more geared toward,
they're more, like cautionary things for your parents.
Yeah. But that totally opens up a whole other aspect to understanding of it is, like, a kid, 13 years old, who's trying to
learn
fit
English,
in at school and learn a new language. Those are the kind of articles that you would kind of, like,
want to
get.
Learn.
Yeah. And they're words, like slang words, that you wouldn't hear outside of that context unless you were able to, like, have a friend who would teach it to you. So, yeah, that's really interesting to think about as well. Wow. My goodness. So, with all of this talk about pop punk and everything like that, we got to go old school with it. Ramones, Dead Kennedys. Were you ever into that sound?
So I was
How long did it take you to get there?
So it honestly took me a while. Not the Ramones, because the Ramones were always like, it's almost like somebody. It's like you turn 14 and somebody hands you a Ramones CD. It's weird.
Rite of passage, right?
Yeah, like you buy your first pair of Chucks and it comes with a Ramones CD, like the anthology. You know what I mean? And so, like, I don't know. I just, like, it's weird. Like, I just, I used to also watch a lot of, like, VH1, and, like, I used that as documentary information for myself, like, trying to understand the world around me, so, like, the Ramones would be, like, on I Love the 80s or whatever,
Sure.
And so I would get into that, and, I never had, like, an older cousin or somebody who would be like, no, bro, you gotta listen, like, Jello Biafra or whatever, like, I had to learn it all on my own.
Yeah, so a lot of that exposure was through media.
Yeah. And then, like, people's shirts. I would see, like, people's band shirts.
Okay.
And go online and research them. And that's how I found Alkaline Trio, one of my favorite bands to this day. Like, I remember seeing, like, their logo on a friend's shirt at school, and I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And I looked them up, downloaded a song, and...
Wow.
The rest is history. Like, that's a lot of what I would do. Like, see environmental media, like things that are written around me, and then, like, go look them up.
Yeah, that's awesome because there's a lot of people that don't do stuff like that. You must be like just have a natural curiosity.
Yeah.
Because like I say, there's a lot of people, they don't, like, they might see the graphic and go, that's a cool graphic on your shirt, but they're not going to go look them up and find out what the shirt is about, you know? So that's really awesome that you're, like, just naturally predisposed to kind of taking that extra step.
I like to learn.
Yourself.
I like to learn a lot.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's how I had to, like, find out about the old school came to me later, you know?
Sure.
Like, I didn't get into the Misfits until I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, I had always seen the shirts, you know what I mean, and I could have bought a shirt without knowing what, you know, because everybody had us a Crimson Skull shirt, you know what I mean? Like I could have just bought it because it looks cool.
Or the tattoo.
Or you know, that's a bigger commitment. But like if I wanted to go out on a Friday night and look cool and punk, I could have bought this Crimson Skull shirt and nobody would have questioned me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They would have just assumed that I listened to the Misfits. You know. But I didn't feel right about doing that, so like it wasn't until like I listened to the Misfits on my own and, you know, sort of quote unquote discovered them on my own that I was like, okay, now I can go and buy a Crimson Skull shirt.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Dead Kennedys I never really got too much into. I mean, I've heard Holiday in Cambodia, and that's about the extent of my Dead Kennedys.
Okay.
Not influence, but like knowledge.
I got you.
Yeah, it's very touch and go with what I've listened to as far as like old school because there's so much.
There is.
You know what I mean? There's so much, and like bands that like never made it to Misfits or DK status. Like, you know, there's a lot of bands that like just never got super big, and I'll find like a tape or something or some footage that I came up on.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, I'll listen to these guys. You know what I mean? I did listen to like, yeah, just The Offspring. It was just really it. The Offspring, Green Day. You know what I mean?
How do you think that all of these bands influence your personal writing style when it came to your music, though?
So I think it actually now, with the benefit of hindsight, might have stifled it because I feel a lot of times like my lyrics are very juvenile, and that has a lot to do with the spirit of, you know, forever young, we're never gonna die of punk. Like it's either we're never gonna die or let's die tonight. You know what I mean? And so I feel like it's put me almost in this box where I'm like I have to, you know, na the things that I want to say, you know, and then if I do use more complex language or try to expand a little bit more, it just kind of comes off as not the type, not fitting with the genre. You know what I mean?
Screw the genre.
Well, yeah, I know, but like at the end of the day, like I want it to sound like something I like. You know what I mean? So if I feel like I'm not convinced by it, I'm not gonna keep it. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a lot of fun, but it can be sometimes, you know, like
a little shallow feeling.
Yeah, like I'm 35 and, you know, I'm singing about like, you know, just very juvenile stuff, like relationships, but not to deep connections of relationships, like very much like, oh, I like you, you like me, we don't like each other type thing, like nah, you know what I mean? Like, it makes it shallow. So like, I don't know. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how to be a little more expressive with my words while maintaining that style. Because at the end of the day, it's what I know and what I like. You know?
So the band that you're playing with now, December Pilot.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is allowing you to expand a little more?
Yeah, definitely. So lyric-wise, we are just now starting to write a lot together. Okay. So these na ideas that I have get, processed by two other brains who are also knowledgeable in the genre and they have their history with it, who can help me, mold these lyrics or these ideas to, maintain the youth of the genre, but also make it expressive. You know what I mean?
So it's evolved a little more.
Right, for sure. Sure.
Well, I find as well, like, because the at least in my opinion from what I've seen, the punk genre, when it started, the people who were really into it and made it so popular, they're all, 30s and 40s now. So
I would argue that they're 50s. But they're in their 50s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So there's definitely like a couple decades expanse there. But because of that, the genre itself has to be able to grow and expand and evolve to suit the fans, because the fans have all gotten older and evolved more. Mm-hmm. So they might want something a little bit more deep to hear and resonate with.
Right.
So that makes sense that, a lot of these punk bands that used to just be like 3-chord progression, very shallow lyrics, they're now starting to get a little bit more complex.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's great for you guys and what you guys do. How did you all meet and get together?
Well, Nate and Spencer already knew each other. Nate had tried to reach out to me. We've been together for a year and some change, so 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I wasn't, I was still on my solo trip. So I was like, no, thank you, for reaching out, but like right now I'm just not in the headspace to be in a band.
Sure.
And then I was actually playing a set for this place, for Sayla, down at the farmer's market or something like that, or the street fair, one of the things that they do here. And so we had a booth, and I was performing at it, and I was playing a bunch of, covers that I like,
Sure.
Because a lot of what you hear here in Lodi is like CCR, like a lot of classic rock.
Yeah.
Classic rock, yacht rock. So I was like, whatever, I'm going to play what I like. I'm going to play what I play in my room. And so I was playing my songs, and then I remember seeing this big dude, like, with aviators, like, just stop, and, like, he was just, like, watching me the whole time, and I was like, everybody's walking around, and this dude's just standing there watching me. This is weird. You know what I mean? Like, and I got a little nervous, so I was like, I know that this dude is watching. Like, who is he?
Yeah.
What does he know that I don't? And so, he messaged me after and was like, hey, I saw you playing, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've been trying to do a band. Like, you should come over and hang out one day. I was like, all right, yeah, one day I'll do it. Kind of blew him off again. And then he posted we met through Facebook, became friends on Facebook, whatever. And he posted on one of the local music groups, like, who plays pop punk guitar in the 209 area? And I was like, well, I do. Because that, I was like, okay, cool. Like, if I'm in a band, that is less responsibility for me.
Sure.
I can be the guitarist.
There you go, yeah.
I don't have to come up with the songs. I don't have to do anything but add to whatever is there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I do that, So we got together, and so we used to be a 2 guitar and 1 drum set, 2 guitar and drum set band. And it just sounded like the songs were cool, like on record, like it sounded really good and everything because there was a bass there.
Yeah.
And live, I felt like we sounded thin, like we didn't have the punch we should have.
Sure.
So I told Nate, like, we need to look for a bass player, we had looked for a bass player, and, like, it just didn't work out with anybody. And I told Nate, like, let me see that bass that's in your room. Like, let me borrow it. I'll learn the songs. You know what I mean? He's like, okay, well, I have a bass amp if we need to, like, so we can practice it. And that's how I became the bass player. You know, shortly after, like, we made it official playing the Rockvember Fest.
Yeah.
And then...
And that was over at Idol, right?
It was at Idol. No, Rockvember Fest, we did 2, one at High Water and one at 5 Windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
and those are both here in Lodi, right?
Yeah. Those are all put on by the dude from Cato and the Donuts.
Okay.
Kevin.
All right. Yeah.
And that's all like for vets and stuff like that. So it was a good time. It was fun. Like I had always heard about it. You know what I mean? And to be able to play it, like it was cool.
Yeah.
To play it. And so shortly after that, you know, Nate bought me a bass, and
there you go. The rest is history.
Yeah,
right?
and then I just became the bass player. So. You know, I tell people I don't play the bass. I mean, I'm not a bass player. I just play one on Instagram.
Right, there you go.
You know
there you go.
Like,
that's what I used to say about my guitar. I only play guitar out of necessity because
right.
I need accompaniment. You know,
right? Exactly. Like I don't play guitar.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, I don't play bass. I just play one on TV.
Right. There you go. Nice.
So, yeah, that's how it all started with us, December Pilot.
Awesome. And you guys have put out some songs, right?
Yeah.
So we can find December Pilot songs on Spotify.
Yeah, you can find them all on Spotify, YouTube, whatever, wherever you mainline your music.
Do you have a full album out, or
No. We don't have a full album out. We have 5 singles out so far, and we're working on 2 more right now. 3 more.
So almost a whole album.
Yeah, pretty much. Like. You know, it's just that nowadays it doesn't make sense to release a whole album right away, especially when you're an underground band. It's a lot of work. People want their hit right away. You know what I mean? So you're better off putting out singles, because more people are likely to listen to a single as it comes out.
Sure.
Than to a whole album.
Sure.
You know, so the idea is to put out a couple of singles and then at some point kind of collect them all and put them in an album.
I got you.
You know, and we have a ton of like ideas that we just haven't had the time to really flesh out.
Sure.
We have like a drive, a Google Drive that we like all upload ideas into. So at any given moment, one of us can grab one of those ideas and start working on it.
Okay.
At home, and then send it back to the other and be like, hey, when we meet this Friday, this is what I want to work on.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's cool. It's very dynamic right now.
Nice. And do you have any solo stuff out there?
Yeah, I also have my Brightside Music. I have 2 4-song EPs. One is It's Alive, and the other one is Delayed Perusia. And those are on Spotify, YouTube, also Tidal. Nice. Recommend Tidal. Tidal's good.
And one of the things that I love about your music is not like I love the style, I love the genre because I'm into that punk kind of sound anyway.
For sure.
But you could hear your cultural influences through it. Like you don't have English, like just English speaking American pop punk out there. You have some very...
I have a song in Spanish.
Yeah, and I think that's great because it really adds to the diversity of the scene to have that there, you know? So that's awesome. Now, what song is that you have in Spanish?
That's called Te Veré Partir.
Okay.
It means I'll see you, I'll watch you leave, I'll see you leave.
Okay. And that's out there. I think you sent me that one.
Yeah.
So we have that playing on the episode this time
Sweet.
as well.
Awesome.
So yeah,
cool.
People can get to hear that. That's killer. I love it.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about before we finish off the interview is Sayla Music Academy.
Oh yeah.
So how long have you been affiliated with it?
I've been here for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
And it's been great. I love it. It's a great place to work, but it's also really cool. It's a really big community space, so our students can come here at any time of the day and practice. This is their practice rooms. You know what I mean? Kind of like when you're a student college and you're a student of music, you can go. You usually get a key to a practice room to go at any time that you want. You can go there 24/7. Here, obviously, within business hours, our students can come in, and if there's a teacher on site, then they'll let them in and tell them where there's a room available, if there is one where they can practice. We have open mic nights that we throw the last Thursday of every month. I used to do the sound for the ones that we had out here in our courtyard, and then now we're doing them at the 180, so they have their own sound guy over there, and they're handling that.
Okay.
But they're doing that at the 180 Center. It's an amazing place to work because everybody's very supportive. It's a very supportive community.
Nice.
It's just I've never experienced being employed by a place that I like so much. It's weird.
That's great, though.
Yeah, because you think of it's at the end of the day, it's a capitalist venture. You know what I mean? So
somebody's got to get paid.
Exactly. And so, but my bosses are amazing. I consider them my friends, and it's I've never experienced that before. Where I can hit up my boss for a personal issue that's not going to be brought into work. That's not going to affect work.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my friend.
Yeah.
We're going to go play disc golf whenever. Boom. It's
there's definite compartmentalization.
For sure.
That's awesome.
It's really cool, and so.
So what you teach?
Yeah.
Right. So what is it that you teach?
Here I teach piano, guitar, and ukulele.
Oh, wow.
I can also teach. See, that's the beauty of it, because it's teaching slots. I can say one of my students wants to try guitar for a couple of weeks. If they have a guitar, I have guitar methods that I can pull out, and we can switch from guitar to piano, guitar, whatever
your student wants to do.
Right. Which means I can also teach if the student has GarageBand or whatever, I can teach them a little bit of production.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
I can, if they have Ableton, they can bring their laptop and we'll work on whatever projects they're working on.
So it's very based on what the student is gearing toward. That's killer. That's killer. And what age ranges do you...
I've had students from 6 years old to 72 years old.
Okay, so Sayla Music, they have all ages.
Yep.
Any age that can be.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how do people get involved here?
They can look it up. Involved? We have a...
Well, either way, if they want to...
If you want to take lessons, we have a website.
Okay.
It's SaylaMusicAcademy.com. And, all the information is there. We have teacher pages where you can browse through all of our teachers and see who you think is going to be the best fit for you. We have volunteer opportunities, too. If anybody wants to just volunteer, we have that. And there's tons of ways to get involved. I would just suggest going on the website, looking at the events, or contacting the school directly through an email.
Okay.
And letting them know I would like to get involved. That's what I did. I graduated from Sac State with a BA in music education. So, I was like, hey. I contacted them and I was like, hey, I am in your area and I just graduated with a degree in what you guys do. How can I get involved with you guys?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, come on in for an interview. And then I met them and boom, here I am.
There you go.
It was awesome.
No, that's great.
I'm also involved, if I may, involved with Mason Ray Presents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard this name.
Yeah. So they they are a nonprofit organization that puts on shows here in Lodi, and we're trying to branch out to Sacramento. We did a couple in Modesto as well, and so it's a nonprofit that focuses on basically raising funds for different causes. We've had them for the Ukrainian relief. We had them for, I believe it was called Torn. I can't remember the name, but it was basically it's an organization that helps protect victims of domestic abuse or domestic violence. We raise funds for them. So it all goes, to different organizations that we feel need help. And we always try to switch it up. But we are actually going to have the Lodi Halloween Fest on October 28th at Idle Beer Works. And that's going to be great. We have vendors, we have bands. It's going to go on from what's the time? 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. or something like that. It's going to be an all-day event.
And that's something that happens every year, right?
Yeah. Actually, we did it last year the first time. And this year it's gotten even bigger. We have a bunch of Stockton bands playing. We're having bands from Modesto playing. We have, I don't know if you've heard of 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1984 is playing. Amazon Crimes is playing. Heroes Mission is playing. Brumby Road is playing. So those are all the ones that I know from Stockton. We have My Soul to Keep is also playing. We have Horizon Point and Aware from Modesto. The Almanac is coming from Sacramento. We're having Chaos, You're on Destroyer, Heated, also I believe they're from either Stockton or Sacramento. Scoundrel from San Jose or Fresno. Just a bunch of people. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And it's all ages. There's gonna be a costume contest.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing a lot of the flyers, and I know last year went off really, really well, so it looks like this year is going to be killer, and hopefully next year it's going to be freaking awesome, too.
Yeah, for
bigger
sure.
and bigger every year,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
No, awesome. So if you would like to throw some words of wisdom at us.
Dang. Yeah. That's it. I need a second. That's a deep prompt. My gut reaction is fuck 'em. That's my words of wisdom. Fuck 'em. But just be yourself. At the end of the day, that's gonna piss people off, but be yourself. Let them be pissed off. They're the ones pissed off.
There you go.
You're not annoying, they're annoyed.
Right?
Steve-O says.
I like that. That's great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. This was great.
Heck yeah.
Hay un espejo que me mira a lo lejos y no le agrada lo que veo. Tanta historia debilita mi memoria y no recuerdo mis deseos. Las noches que pasan, los años me atrapan y yo sigo aquí, un soldado junto a ti. Es inevitable un futuro palpable, no lo niegues, tengo razón, porque sé
You're listening to Mudville Sounds.
Hello?